SMITEPro League is about to enter its 6th season. Professional players from all over the world have been preparing to play all their games at LAN in the United States of America. Before we look ahead to all the festivities Season 6 may bring, we get a chance to sit down with some of the players and take a look back at exactly what happened in Season 5.
The energy support trade was one of the more exciting moves that we've seen off screen in a while.
At some point in Season 4, I just knew that us as a whole and energy just wasn't for me. I just want out, you know, I want to enjoy this game and I just want the easiest and the best way out. You know, they ended up telling me, you know, we want to replace you, and I was like, well, that's great, because I was going to leave anyway. And I just kind of wanted to figure out what they were doing.
I left Obey because I got offered a team which was the dream team in my head, right? The team was adapting, Yamin, Emelito, and then Syrer would play solo, and then everyone would speak Swedish, right?
Raffer is one of the few players in the league that I feel like I can watch without any sort of nameplate and say, oh, that's Raffer. That only Raffer positions that way on Fafnir. You know, only Raffer jumps into the oracles and tries to get killed, actively trying to get killed. That's a playstyle that's really, really hard to play around, whereas Emilzi's much more adaptive, I feel like. And that's not to say that he's better, it's just a different skill set.
So I relatively fast, like 2 days after I got home from Worlds, I decided, I just told the boys, like, I'm gonna leave for energy.
I'd already been talking to Funball, you know, I said, I want to make a team, because obviously I want to win Worlds. Like, I know Funball's good enough, I know I'm good enough, I just need 3 other people who could just fill in those, you know, those big shoes of winning. I asked Prime, and he just wouldn't budge. He was just like, nope, playing with Nate, no matter what, playing with Twig, no matter what. And I was like, well, I want to play with Funball, you know, you have to, you know, it is a business, you have to come to some sort of arrangement. And he went, well, here's my offer to you, you can join Obey. And I was like, well, I reject it.
Sadly, things didn't work out with energy the way we expected it to, because Zeros actually had a 2-year contract with Dignitas, and because of that, Dignitas wouldn't release him. They wanted to keep him, obviously, like they wanted to keep the Dig squad together, because now if Dig was a senior team by then, and they'd been doing super well in Season 4, and what could they achieve in Season 5? So it was rough, because I had to go back to my team, like crawling back, like, oh, do you guys want to bring me back? And they actually, being as nice guys as all of the guys in Obey are, they said, you know what, if you want, you can come back, you know, we got a spot open for you, we're ready to move past the fact that you left us. So I had the choice between going back to Obey or staying with Energy but with Maniac instead of Zeros. And I thought long about it and had some talks with some good friends and stuff, and I just came down to the conclusion that I stuck with Energy because I had already left Obey, and leaving Obey, it felt like that I had broken something, if that makes sense. It wouldn't be the same if I moved back.
And I spoke with Funball, I was like, this is the best I can do, like they've offered me a spot, and he was like, just take it. I was like, but, you know, I really want to play with you. And he's like, if you don't think we can win, then, you know, we wouldn't want to play in that sort of environment, which I wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to play with someone who thought, oh, probably not going to win, but, you know, we'll play it anyways. It's a crappy attitude to have.
There was a lot of excitement about it, and for good reason. Raffer is a dude who built a world championship team from the ground up. Now he's getting a new opportunity with a team that he beat in the World Finals. That's a cool storyline. Emilzi has really risen by this point to be a top-tier player across all roles, let alone in the support role. So I think that a lot of the hype there was well warranted, but it doesn't really surprise me that it turns out that Energy was way better at the very beginning.
With rosters now confirmed, it was time for Season 5 to begin. For some, it was a chance to shine. But for others, a bad memory.
Season 5 Smite was, I was playing for SK Gaming. Nobody wants to remember that, nor do I. Like, it was pretty, honestly, it was pretty rough.
Probably better than that performance, but that team had some real struggles.
We're all good friends, me, Danny, Felis, Ducky, Lobster, and we're like really good friends and all that, and we thought, you know what? Let's just keep going for the next year, because obviously we were in Enix before that, and we were like, yeah, let's keep playing.
I think Season 5 SK Gaming is probably the worst SPL team ever in relation to the rest of the league. Would they beat the Team Justices and the Thirsts? Of course they would. They're all, good enough players to beat teams like that, but to make as few roster changes as they made, outside of the spring split, they were pretty set in stone, and to improve so little throughout the course of the year, at least in relation to the rest of the league. Of course they improved from spring to fall, but they improved at the same rate where they had so much more room to grow.
Yeah, on paper, it didn't seem like it would be as bad of a year as it ended up for the guys, but overall, nothing just seemed to mesh. It always felt like someone was always on a different page to the entire team, or it was just the entire team on their own individual page and like individual mindsets. And either way, I think that it was definitely best for that team to go their separate ways.
If I were to change anything in that whole team, I would change our communication. I would change how we would scrim. And me personally, I would change who we had in support.
They didn't have a support player from minute one. They had Badger, who didn't belong on an SPL court, and then later on they get Half Devil, who's not really all there.
Sometimes, when a team just sinks and, instantly they're all in there, it didn't happen until too late, and then when it did happen at Super Regionals, kind of just, pooped the bed.
Listen, I love them. They have heart. I can say a lot of good things about them off the field. I didn't board the E United hype train until they were one set away from lifting the trophy at Worlds last year. Maybe that makes me a hater or something, but I just wasn't buying in. I didn't really feel them click until right then at Worlds, and then I saw it. And honestly, I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to keep that lightning bottled up.
I think we did pretty well. I mean, we were top 2 every split. We were first pretty convincingly 2 other splits, so I'm pretty proud of that.
So E United coming in as the defending champs, everyone is looking at them to be the best.
Early on in the spring split, we had a lot of issues with scrims and basically just like everybody communicating together, and I think I could have done a better job to kind of bridge that gap and to kind of like support them while also like not really going too hard on the whole like, we need to win no matter what type of thing, and like giving there a little bit more like flexibility for everyone to just like calm down.
As Season 5 went on, they made a switch in the mid lane away from Venenu towards Baskin.
And then you trade out your last year's World's MVP in the middle of the year. It's kind of a head scratcher, but then you realize, oh, it's Baskin, and Baskin is like the next coming of anything you want him to be.
That was probably the most frustrating role swap to witness, without a doubt, because you're not necessarily going to get an insane wombo combo right away between Baskin and Scream. And I think after that honeymoon phase wore off, E United started to suffer some of the repercussions.
E United aren't even thinking about NA anymore because of how dominant they are at this point. They're like, how do we get over the hump of beating Dig, Rival, and Energy, right? And adding Baskin seemed like that thing.
But Baskin in that team environment, I think, was always going to be a challenge. And I don't think that E United went into that blind. I think that was a challenge that PBM and the rest of E United knew was going to be there. I just think that despite knowing that challenge was going to be there, they still couldn't prepare enough for it to not bite them in the end.
It is give and take. Probably could have done a little better integrating Baskin. He basically gave Scream the ability to take control, and Baskin was like willing to kind of like mold himself more to what Scream wanted. And I don't think Scream really took advantage of that. I think Scream was just like, just do what you do. And I think that hurt a lot, because then I think later, once we had conflict like down the road later in the split, I think that Scream and Baskin would just be like disconnected, and then like Scream specifically were in the fall split were really, really bad. We would either like win and then troll, or be like, oh, this isn't even practice, or like, which is just such a horrible mentality to have. Even if you are stomping scrims, like you can always learn something. I think we did a really poor job of that.
I really do think that team environment is more important at this level than mechanical skill. Baskin's better than every player in the league. Right now, yes, I think that he's better than every SPL player in the league, but he still needs to mesh with the rest of the team.
Going into Season 5, Splice is the team I probably liked just because I liked all their players, and then you saw them in action and you're like, oh no, this is bad.
A lot of people don't realize that we picked Sino up like a week, 2 weeks before the SPL, so I feel like if we had more practice with Sino, Spring Split also would have probably went a little bit better. I don't think we would have been a top team. I'm not saying that, but I feel like since we brought a lot of the sets to Game 3, I feel like we would have picked up maybe 1 or 2 more set wins and at least been like 3-7, like not 1-9 like we were.
I cannot describe how bad I thought Splice was during the Spring Split. I thought they were a worse team than SK. That is how I describe how bad I thought they were during the Spring Split. I mean, this team looked lost at all times.
They really had some struggles coming out of the gate. You knew there was some potential there with Cyclone Spin, with Aurora, with Sino on that roster, but they just couldn't figure out how to unlock it.
So going to Summer Split, our primary goal was basically to do better than we did in Spring Split, which I feel like that's normal for anybody. And everybody on the team knew we could do better than 1-9 for sure. And the big thing that really gave us a lot of morale boost was that Kabam was like, hey, I want to try to do this thing where we can go boot camp at my family's beach house. Just being able to come together in person and kind of experience a split together was really beneficial to the team, and just because we were all in person, we could see how much it affected when we lost and how happy everybody was when we won.
But they got their comps in order, the meta got longer, which really helped them, and they just started working better as a unit. So I was pretty high on them in summer. Then they make the switch over to Moswall, and while some people that kind of checked their enthusiasm for the team.
They're third place team in A. They're riding high. They were 1 game away from being in that top 2 and making it to LAN. And then they do swap out the best for Moswall? What? Why? Why did we do that?
I think they had done a lot of work with the best and the team as a unit, and they'd improved, but they reached a ceiling. And then they made a professional and calculated switch to Moswall, who I think absolutely helped them.
I was really excited because Moswall is a late game mage player for the most part, so it fit their style of wanting to go later in games. But having that new hunger on the team, I think was perfect for Splice.
We knew how good mechanically he was. He was doing really well in scrims, and we were super confident in how he was playing. So we had like a week and a half probably with him. Like the first half week, everything was going great, and he told us what gods he wanted to play. He felt like he wanted to play like long range gods like Thoth and Janus, and that's like what he's played a ton of.
Fall Split starts, and it's game day, and he says, I only want to play Thoth and Janus, which we were not really practicing in scrims, but like it's his like first SPL games in forever. We wanted to be comfortable. We're like, okay, you can play it.
Well, Sino gets mad if I ever split any farm with him. He wants me to be like really far behind.
We ended up getting 2-0'd by LG.
It's funny because United beat us the most times the entire year, and then LG beat us the second most times out of the entire year, just games.
I've been riding the Dignitas train since it left the station. Choo-choo! All aboard, Zeros, I'm on. I thought this squad was going to be man successful, and they were man successful. And let me get aggravated real quick, because everybody talks about them choking. When you look at the wins versus the losses, there's a hell of a lot more W's there. Sure, sometimes they come short at LAN, but Dignitas was the team throughout the regular season that everyone had to be scared of.
The beginning of the year was super solid. We got second place at the first tournament. Should have won. It was 3-2 against rival.
And then we didn't qualify for the next LAN, mainly because we wanted to relax before Worlds. We had played for 1.5 years, so many scrims, and we decided to actually take just three times a week to practice, just to calm down before Worlds, to renew the energy. Obviously, that kind of worked out because we got second place in the split, and we qualified straight for Worlds.
Dignitas was a catalyst for some of the middle of the pack teams to get better. Dignitas became the pole position to beat. Dignitas was one of the best regular season teams. Dignitas was fun to watch. Dignitas had a player for the first time threaten adapting, being the best player in the world. They still didn't win.
Playing season 5, there was games where I was like, this team's unstoppable. Going to boot camp, Scrim and SK, who were playing brilliant as well, considering they only won 1 game. Maybe they're our kryptonite. I don't know.
Honestly, the only reason we won that is because I told my team, and I was tilted at that point because I just wanted to win a game. So like, you know what, fuck it, boys. I'm picking Freya. Nobody knows, nobody's played against Freya for about a year or so. So, and I'm super comfortable with Freya, even if I've not practiced it for about 10 years or some shit like that. Like, I'm ready to play that god. and ended up soloing Atraxia like twice or something. And I told Fearless, Danny or whatever, I told him, you know what, you better pop off because I'm not happy with what's going on.
The regular season came to an end with every team having their highs and lows. But a new challenge was already here. The SMITE World Championship. One final chance for teams to prove they were worthy of lifting the hammer.
Going into HRX, all the teams that were going that qualified top 4 were really strong, and we knew that like the teams in Europe like Obey, who didn't make it top 2 in EU, were also like a really strong team.
We knew we could beat every single team. The only team we thought that would be like kind of an issue would be United, because we scrimmed them and did that start, and every single game was a stomp. And they eventually just started 3-manning it, and then we figured out how broken it could be. We did some dumb stuff.
So going into it, we felt really confident, and as long as that we stuck to our game plan, that we had a really fantastic shot. So as soon as we knew that our matchup was against Obey, we felt pretty good about going into that set, but we knew that it was not going to be easy, and that's what I kept trying to reinforce to the team. Like, this is not going to be easy. We have to literally leave everything out there. We need to play the best Smite we've ever played.
You know, it was going great. I was like, how can we physically lose Worlds if we played this well? And yeah, we shown how we could lose.
For Worlds rosters, there was 2 question marks. Mid laner Yaman for Energy and mid laner Pretty Prime for Obey. Now, Energy didn't get their mid laner back, and that was rough, but it was almost rougher that Obey did get their mid laner back. They practiced with somebody else leading up to the biggest tournament, and then a couple of days before, Prime, you know, has a very healthy kid, and that's the important part.
There's a few unfortunate, well, not unfortunate, you know, it's great, like Prime's having a baby and stuff, but it's unfortunate timing.
I mean, they looked as good as you would expect a great team like Obey to look, underprepared.
So we went into that trifecta sets, and I really had like a weird feeling about it. I'm like, I feel like we're not fully ready to play. Like, I feel like people are just thinking like, we're gonna ease into it and we'll get to semis and we'll be chilling. I never really felt that way.
We're downstairs in the lobby, and Polar Bear Mike comes up to me, and I can tell he's worried, and he's like, man, I don't know, I just have a bad feeling about this trifecta set. I feel like if we can beat trifecta, we can win this whole thing, but I'm kind of worried that we're already looking past them, and maybe we won't win it.
Like, we felt like we can make a pretty good run, but definitely acknowledging that like it steps up for sure from there on the like bigger stage and against a team that did own us in the split.
That set to me embodied all of the struggles that I personally had with the team throughout the season. It just kind of felt like it was coming a little bit. They were a hot team.
I don't know if United wins the World Championship with Venenu on the team. I'm not sure. But Baskin versus Venenu was probably the right move for the team short term. Long term, they didn't win.
Then we had to play against Dignitas, who were the #1 seed in the entire tournament.
It wasn't until Aurora defended the Titan against Dignitas in that set. As soon as that happened and they won that game, I knew they were going to win Worlds.
As long as we played our game and didn't fall into the trap of playing their game, we knew that we had a really good chance of winning.
Dignitas maybe would have won Worlds if Splice wasn't the whirlwind of talent that they wound up being at Worlds. Something happened to Splice at Worlds.
We took them out 3-0. It was not easy at all.
Well, Splice turned up, what can I say?
I would say not the best outcome of the year. I had way higher hopes.
Finally got to Worlds again, so that was nice. At least got that covered.
And then going into the rival set, the finals, we were like, if we could beat Obey, if we could beat Dignitas, if we could beat all the teams in NA, we could definitely beat rivals. So
once they came out and beat a really strong Obey team, then I was on board. I was like, yeah, this Splice team can win. Then they 3-0 Dignitas in a set that's closer than 3-0 would tell you, but still a really impressive set. And now you're like, well, yeah, Splice are the favorites. Good luck, rival.
Let's get to game number 1, everyone.
Psycho's been turning up, but it's not enough to bring that rival just
Took
yet.
it game by game, even in the set.
And if that Wolfie gets another, game 1 is going the way of rival. From the moment the game began, this was rival from minute 1, and Splice have to adjust.
The first game was rough, but we bounced back in the second game.
It's in trouble. Game 2 goes to Splice.
There was just so much momentum. They had it. You know what I mean? You can just feel it when you're watching them. They get this aura about them that feels nearly unstoppable. And Rival has that sometimes, but tends to lose it also in the middle of games, seemingly. They just start making weird decisions and it doesn't quite pan out.
And that, it's actually, like thinking about it now, it's funny, like we had a rough first game, and then we came back. We started the second game really rough.
Game 3 going the way of Splice. 2-1, and all Splice have to do now is find one more win.
I mean, that's just been the story of the team the entire year, and just being able to bounce back like we did all year is what made us do really well at Apex.
Lifted up, jumps back to the back line, but in the tight room, everyone from Splice charging in. They're gonna try to end the game right now. Splice are gonna be your season 5 world champions. This is their moment.
But no, we've been together for 2 years and we had to make a change.
And there were a lot of people for every role that kind of like crossed our minds.
My personal goal for this year would be to actually just prove to everyone that I'm still relevant